Hi, this is Louise Bibby from GetUpAndGoGuru.com and welcome to my Living Powerfully with CFS video series. We're up to number 3 of the series, and if you've watched the first 2 of the series, which I encourage you to do because they do go in order, you know that our first step is to accept that it is as it is. Our life is as it is at the moment. Our chronic fatigue syndrome is as it is. Our myalgic encephalomyelitis is as it is, if you want to call it that. Depends, like, as I tried to say in another video, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Well, it doesn't quite go with the CFME CFS issue, but regardless what we call it, it's the same illness, or a gamut of illnesses, I would suggest, when they eventually identify them. But first of all, we need to stop when we get overwhelmed and defeated. The first step is accepting it is as it is right now. It's not what we want necessarily. It's not what we asked for. It's not fair. It's rubbish. It's awful. It's yucky. It's everything that it is. But it is that. It's just that. For us, our experience is that, and that's okay. And not adding any meaning to that. And then the next step is to choose it, to choose our circumstances and our situation in this moment and in each moment exactly as they are and exactly as they are not, and not dwell on what might have been. Go back into the past and think of all the things that were once and that we don't have anymore. And also not going too far into the future and thinking, well, this is always going to be how it's going to be, and I can't live like this, and I'm over it. Because when we go down both those tracks, it gets us to despair and depression, if we're not already there. So number 3 is about when we get overwhelmed, we often feel we have no control. And it's very easy to feel that way when you're experiencing the symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome, because there is no clear diagnosis, there is no clear treatment. Often people don't believe us, often doctors don't believe us. There's a multitude of things that can make us feel very overwhelmed and very out of control. And when we feel that way, it's a ticket to depression land. If we allow ourselves to continue to feel like we can't control anything. But what I've realised is that we may not be able to control our physical circumstances at this point. We may be able to control certain aspects of them, like, we can consume good quality water and food and supplements, and we can do everything like that for ourselves. But for the most part, we don't have control over the present moment and whether our bodies are working the way we want them to. And if we're laying in bed, hugely debilitated by CFS, we don't have control over our bodies. But now this is the key. We do have control over our thoughts. I maintain that we always have control over our thoughts. So we may not be able to control very much, but we can control our thoughts. Now you may want to argue that point with me, and that's fine. In my 20-year experience with CFS, I personally I know that when I want to, have control over my thoughts. I can also allow my thoughts to just go off into despair land, and I can think all the despairing negative thoughts that we all think at times. You know, I've been there. I've been on the verge of suicide. I've been in the depths of depression. And the thoughts that go through your head in that space are things like, this is never going to end. I can't stand this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm over this. This is not how I wanted my life to be. This is not how it should be. I can't do this. And all of that sort of thing. Plus a fair bit of crying, if you're like me. And I've spoken in earlier videos about a period where I was in that space again. And it was a relapse after some time of having reasonable health. The relapse had gone on for some months, and I started to really despair as to whether I was going to get well again or whether I was going to improve. And I was crying uncontrollably, and I could feel myself getting drawn into that dark place that is depression. And I don't want to go there again, and that's the thing. In that moment, I thought I don't want to go there again ever. And this other little voice inside me just went, stop. You need to stop this thinking now. And of course, I had a little argument with that voice. I said, how can I possibly stop this thinking? Because it's true. It's the way it is. And then I went, hang on a minute. No, it's the way it is that right at this moment, you're absolutely exhausted and you're in bed and you're crying. And you haven't had energy for a certain number of months. And my budgie agrees with that. And yeah, you haven't had energy for a lot of months, and at the moment it looks like maybe that's going to continue for a while. But the way I had it was that it was the end of the world. And I knew if I kept thinking that way, it probably would be in a fashion. So I said, stop this thinking. I may not be able to control what's going on physically in my body, but what I can control is my thoughts. And I asked myself the question, so what are you going to think? How are you going to have your thoughts serve you? And that's what I ask you. Consider, how can you have your thoughts serve you and have you feel nurtured and feel like you can take the next step? So yes, you can always control your thoughts. And if you don't think that you can control your thoughts, just start to notice. Start to notice when you're thinking a certain thought. notice the observer in the background, because there's our thoughts, that little voice that chatters on, and then there's also the observer who's watching and who notices the chatter, or notices that a certain thought is being thought, or whatever. But if you really truly believe you can't control your thoughts, first of all, yes, start to take some notice of when you may be able to control your thoughts. I'd also suggest, if you can, going to speak to someone, a counsellor, a psychologist, a coach, to help you to understand how you can control your thoughts, or what you think is getting in the way of that, and to try and work through that a little bit. Because usually what's getting in the way is our emotions, and is our feeling of overwhelm. My budgie occasionally chirps in, I'm sorry to say. Yeah, it's the feeling of overwhelm, and the amygdala kicks in, the primitive part of our brain, and the emotional overwhelm occurs. And so when we're in that fight-flight state, thinking is not a high value in our brain. Our emotions and our adrenaline kick in, and we behave exactly as if we were literally being attacked. But when we can bring ourselves back from that, and I'd suggest some basic things like doing some really deep breaths, 10 really deep breaths, can really circumvent that amygdala hijack, which is that part of the brain being hijacked. There's many things that you can do. I won't go into it here, but yeah, if you really truly think you can't control your thoughts, I'd say reconsider that. Investigate it a little bit more if that's the type of person you are. Talk to a counsellor, psychologist, or coach like me if you want to. But I really maintain that we do have control over our thoughts. It's just a matter of learning how. And I use distraction as one of the ways that sometimes, like, I know that I might have control of my thoughts, but there's certain days when I go down, every thought I have is negative. It's because of the physical way I'm feeling. It's like Mr. Negative jumps into my brain, and I know those days now. And so I know that in those days I need to distract my mind. It's like I say to myself, don't think, just don't think today. And I will distract my mind. I will escape into a book. I will watch a television program. I will escape into the internet, or whatever ways you use to escape your own thoughts, use them. I use podcasts a lot, and audiobooks, and normal books and music. You'll find a post on my blog called The Power of Distraction. I think it's called 5 ways to distract your mind. And yeah, live powerfully with chronic fatigue syndrome. My mantra. And yes, so those are the sorts of things you can use to control your thoughts and to have them serve you. And if you don't feel that it's in you to turn those thoughts around on a particular day or in a particular moment, that's okay, because sometimes we just do have those moments and those days. And that's when I suggest use distraction. Use anything to direct your attention outward and away from your inner thoughts. So to sum up, and I don't know that I really need to, but to sum up, we don't have control over much when we're in that state. And when we have chronic fatigue syndrome, we don't have control necessarily over our physical body, and often over our financial situation and our work situation and all sorts of other things. We may not have control over very much, but we do always have control over our thoughts. And it's important for us to learn how to have those thoughts serve us and empower us in managing our illness, as opposed to them adding fuel to the fire by taking us down into depression or exacerbating the depression that is already there and the anxiety, if that's the case. So stay tuned for the next instalment, number 4, in our Living Powerfully with CFS series, and I'll talk to you then. Louise Bibby from the getupandgoguru.com, or from getupandgoguru.com, signing off for now. Keep smiling if you can. You can always put a smile on your face, even if it's fake. Fake it till you make it. Cheers. Talk to you soon.